All right, Mike, since I got you here and you're snowed in.
Man, it's kind of warm in here, Jeff, isn't it? Jeez.
Up, dude.
Hey.
It's not warm in here at all. It's nice and cold. I mean, we've got camera people in 4 pairs of pants and 3 shirts. So.
And a heater going.
And a heater going.
Yeah.
You know.
You softies.
These young kids.
Softies. Go ahead.
So, Mike, all right, I got you here because you were down at the National Park Show. You bumbled around, went hunting, did all kind of crazy stuff in Gainesville. Killed you a couple of hogs.
3.
3. And you actually allowed yourself to come up here yet again.
I tore myself away from the golf courses and hog hunting just to come up and talk to you.
You know, I get teary-eyed. Mike,
So did I.
Probably about coming up here rather than you coming up here. Anyway, so, okay, what I wanted to do is just kind of go over some myths and some things that you run across in your travels as a spring guy that people do or say about their springs. Now, I guess one of the first things we ought to go over is what is a spring's function?
What's the purpose of the spring?
Yes.
Let's start with a leaf spring. First off, a leaf spring is designed to locate the axle.
Okay.
It hooks to the front of the axle. Center bolt here locates on the axle, and then the rear end is hooked to the shackle. Of course, the spring is upside down here.
Right.
Yeah, okay, right.
Here, we can do this for everyone.
Let's do it this way. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Here's the front of the car. Here's the axle. There's the rear of the car. This little center bolt right here, that's what locates the spring to the axle.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Now.
Set this back up.
Okay.
That way.
Spring, another function of both a coil spring, a leaf spring, an air spring, any type of spring, is to support the weight of the vehicle.
Now, do springs have anything to do with ride quality on the vehicle?
They've got a lot to do with ride quality.
Okay.
The higher the spring rate, that is how much weight springs are measured in a spring rate.
Right.
The higher that rate, the stiffer the spring. The stiffer the spring, the harsher the ride.
Now, we've talked about this before once, but we said that if it's a 620, that's not a 620-pound coil.
No.
That's not at all what that is. So what is that when a guy says he's got 620s on his car?
The wire diameter is 620 thousandths wire diameter. I can take a 620-pound spring, and I can make it ride like a buckboard or float down the street going down the road. There's a lot more design into a spring, goes into the design of a spring than just the wire diameter. I think we're going to cover that later.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Spring also provides stability. If it's too soft, you get floating back and forth. If it's too stiff, you get leaning back and forth. That keeps the car stable, keeps it riding nice. Sway bars helps along. Shock absorbers helps along with that too. But the main control comes from a leaf spring, a leaf or coil spring.
Yeah, because these are basically what are controlling it, and the shock absorber is there to help reduce.
Shock absorber is the purpose of shock absorber is to release the kinetic energy of a spring. As you push a spring down, it would just sit there and just keep, with the weight on it, just keep bouncing. Shock absorber is to control the release of that energy.
Okay.
So it goes down slow, comes back up slow. That's sole.
And basically, it's just to reduce the rebound of your springs, right?
Correct. Yep. Exactly right. Spring also absorbs the imperfection of the road imperfection. A bumpy road, it's absorbed by the spring. A spring on a car, most springs on a car, people think a spring moves a whole lot on a car.
Right.
A perfectly designed spring, a perfectly designed suspension, that is not going to move much more than an inch.
Really?
That's all it should be moving is about an inch.
Okay.
Inch and a half, that's it. You're not getting 4 and 5 inches of flexing on there. Unless you're doing off-road Baja, that's something else.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
just everyday driving, everyday moving. Yeah, it just moves just about an inch.
So if a guy's getting more spring flex than that, he's probably got a problem with shock absorbers or things like that are causing it to rebound higher and longer.
If he's getting more than that, he's got the wrong spring in there. Spring rate is too soft. Shock absorbers are probably incorrect also.
Well, the spring rate being too soft, that can boil down to the spring just being flat and worn out, right?
Spring doesn't lose rate. The rate will stay the same on the spring. It just loses the ability to support weight. Because as a spring gets old, it starts to flatten, it starts to fatigue out. It gets lower and lower and lower. Which brings up a very important point, the quality of the material that the spring is used. Good quality, made in America springs, like all of ours, are made in the USA, are made from SAE 5160. SAE 5160 has a memory. You can sit there and we'll put the springs on a load tester, and that is we will flex them up and down, up and down, up and down. You can flex them up and down 1,000,000 cycles and take that spring off, and it will be almost exactly the way it was when you first made it.
Now that's different from the spring steel that they were using back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, correct?
Different steel for different purpose, but the steel worked the same. Cheap, inexpensive springs, foreign springs comes from different countries. Take a set of our Mustang springs, $349. I'll send you to places you can buy a set of Mustang springs for $125 a pair.
Right.
1/3 the price. But put them on a load tester and cycle it 1,000,000 times, you'll never make it. Every time that spring cycles, it's going to set lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. That's got to do with the quality of the steel.
Oh, dang. Okay.
The most important thing that a spring does, it sets the stance, how that vehicle is going to set. You can get vehicles that they just don't look right. The stance is wrong. You can make or break a vehicle by the stance of the vehicle, and that stance comes from the springs. There's no other way of setting that stance except with the springs.
And you guys can hand that to a guy. In other words, if he says, I want to drop this thing 3 inches in the front, 2 inches in the back, you can set that up on the springs, correct?
Not 3 inches on the front with a coil, no.
Now, why not?
We limit it to 2-inch change ride height on coils. Why? You come into change of steering geometry. You come into problems with brake lines, jounts, that is where something, metal to metal contact. So coil springs, we can find out, we can go 2 inches without a problem on just about any vehicle. Leaf springs, we find we can go 3 inches without a problem, just about on any vehicle.
Okay.
We know the handful of vehicles, you can go 3 inches with coil, you can go 4 or 5 inches with leaf. But our general rule is 2 inches with coils, 3 inches with leaf.
So if he wanted to drop it any more than that, he should probably go in and do maybe a 2-inch drop on the coils and then an inch drop on, say, a spindle.
Spindle drop, exactly right.
So that's going to be good for the GM guys. The Ford guys,
They're going to be
in a little bit of trouble there.
2 inches, be happy.
Yeah.
If you want anything lower than that, we say use our air gauge. I mean, our air method. Let air out of the tires, you know. No,
That's not going
no,
to work for driving.
Don't put that in.
Okay, is that it?